Hi, everybody. Welcome to Power to Sing Live, number 158. Today we're going to be talking about oversinging and why we need to stop oversinging. And if we stop oversinging, we're going to stop, or go a long way at least, to stop pulling chest voice. So, hi to you who are with us today. Now, let me see here. I saw it just a second ago. I've got a new interface here with YouTube. They have given us a new chat box, so it's kind of cool. So I can float it around the screen, so it's right in front of me here. George, hi, nice to have you here today. Kedar, Laszlo, nice to have you here. I just literally watched one of your amazing YouTube videos in this minute. Coincidence. I have pulled chest voice. Kedar, join the club. That represents about 90% of the humanity, I think. It's pretty common for us, especially for, well, really, it's common for most of us. And George says he's here with ginger tea and honey. That sounds very therapeutic and tasty. Kedar says, by the way, do you know any tip to strengthen falsetto register? I don't. I don't teach falsetto. I can give you some tips on strengthening your head voice. Now, some people get those two things mixed up, and maybe we can talk more about that in a few minutes. So, let's get to, what question. The question of the day is, have you ever oversung? Have you ever been a participant of oversinging? Let me know in the comments section below. I have. And I don't remember as a youth necessarily, and that it happens commonly in younger people. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But I do know that I've been in ensembles, in musical productions, musical theater, where I'm surrounded by fellow cast members, and I'm singing loud enough to hear myself over them. And I can tell after a while that I'm getting in trouble. My voice is getting tired. I'm getting, I can feel the tiredness coming in. And I also lose my low notes. I can't sing low notes when I oversing like that. And it's because, well, there's a number of things that happen. We'll talk about the number of things that happen. Riddick Sharma says, sir, what is a Passaggio? I'll answer that in a second. George is, yes, it is delicious and therapeutic. The ginger tea and honey. Renald, hi, nice to have you here. You have oversung. Kedar says, yes, of course. Bushra, hi, nice to have you here. You are awesome. Thanks for your YouTube videos. Thanks, Bushra. I appreciate that. I'm trying to get the word out that what we think is true with our voices is not. I should clarify that. When I was up until age 43, almost 44, I thought that I couldn't sing any higher than the E above middle C. Ah! And I would just stop because I was afraid that if I went, well, I knew if I went any further, I would have to really just yell. And it was already flat by then. The pitch was already flat. Or I would crack. Ah, ah, ah. Crack in tune. Ah. So it's something that's been so meaningful to me and so important and so life-changing that my goal is to inform the world. I would like everybody who is a singer to know about what I teach and what I've been taught. And all of this information originated or was at least consolidated into an approach to teaching by Mr. Seth Riggs. And it's just really had a huge impact on my voice and on my life and on my ability to enjoy it and to be happy and to sing. So the Passaggio is in answer to the question already by Riddick. It's the Passaggio is a passageway. It's a place that in the voice where you transition from one voice to another. And in the case of the first Passaggio, which is also called the bridge, it's where the chest voice begins to vibrate. The vibrations from the chest travel up, 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 till you get to this point where it goes into the head, or the head resonance or vibrations that are already starting begin to mix in or blend in together. And so it's really traveling from the low notes to the high notes. And this middle area here, it's not chest voice and it's not head voice. It's this middle area where you transition from one to the other. So if I said, ah, it feels like I'm at the top. I'm really not at the top. I'm approaching the bridge. And in that note, I was in the bridge. For the men, it's E, F, F sharp, generally speaking. The tenors and baritones. And for the basses, it's a little bit lower than that. The A below middle C. And for the sopranos and altos, or for the sopranos and mezzos, it's the A above middle C. For the true alto, the contralto, it's down where the tenors and baritones bridge. So it's a transition zone. So instead of saying, ah, and stopping, or breaking up, or just letting go, ah, going into falsetto, you transition in the bridge from chest into head. You start mixing that chest voice with a higher vibration, and it starts to compound. So now you've got some chest resonance and you've got some head resonance going at the same time. That area is called the Passaggio, or the bridge. So that's, instead of like breaking, cracking, or yelling, you transition from chest with a blend of chest voice and a blend of head voice going at the same time. So if you have chest, you have head voice, and they blend together or mix together through that bridge, and then and that takes you right up into your head voice. And so that's the bridge. That's the Passaggio. And then there's another one about every tritone, and on up until, for the guys, very, very few of us get into our fourth bridge. And occasionally a high tenor will get into his third bridge. Maybe the countertenors can get up into their fourth bridge. But most of our work that we do as singers is in the first and the second bridges. All right, so let me say hi to Kyle. Hey, Kyle, nice to have you here today. Bernie, nice to have you. Proving my mix, awesome. That's great, Bernie. Kedar, can you lend us some head voice exercises as well? I'll give you information on what you can do, Kedar, and I've got exercises that you can download. Nico, Socrates, or Socrates, nice to have you here, Nico. I don't recognize your name. I guess you're here maybe for the first time. So nice to have you here. Okay, so I have like F2 to D5 vocal range. Wow. I'm trying to figure out my voice to improve it because I have more stronger chest than head or falsetto. And that's very common. Riddick, sir, how can we use our diaphragm in our singing? I'll give you a reference on that in a second, Riddick. Hi, Marco. Nice to see you. Nice to have you here today. Nico. All right. So, what is oversinging? Um, let me explain it in terms of a story. Um, I attended my church a couple of weeks ago. We had a children's choir or children's presentation, and they took about 40 minutes, and they read things, they read scriptures and tell stories, and then they sing a lot of songs. And these are kids from ages 3 years old up to 11 years old. And there were a lot. We had a lot of them up in the front of our church, and the little ones, the little tiny ones, are in the front, and they're leaning on the on the front rail or the front wooden. There's a little short wall there. Wall's not the right word, but it's just a wooden short. What would you call it? Anyway, they're leaning on that, and they're waving at their grandma or grandpa or their mom or their dad, and it's really fun to watch them. Well, there was one little girl who was singing out of, there must have been 50 kids up there, well, 40 maybe, and there was one little one. She must have been 3, and she was on the front row. And she was so excited to be there and just happy about everything. And on every song, every single song, she would just sing out. She was louder than all the rest of the kids combined. You could hear her over everybody. And as she sang higher, guess what? She went flat. So here's a 3-year-old that's already hitting the bridge. But she was just singing out, singing these songs. And it was fun to watch. I mean, and we were all just smiling at her because she was totally committed to these songs and just sang her heart out. I mean, just at the top of her lungs. And all the, you look around in the chapel and everybody's smiling at her, because it's just cute. She's 3, and she's just got heart. She's just singing her heart out. And anyway, that was over-singing. Because as she was doing it, her neck got tight, and her pitch went flat, was louder than, as I said, everyone, over the top of all the other kids. And you could hear her from the front to the back. She didn't need a microphone. She was just, it was really cute and delightful. But that was over singing. Now, the question is, have you ever done that? I don't remember ever doing it quite like that. But for me, being, singing around an ensemble of people and singing too loud, start to feel that, wearing out your voice, and start to realize that I was losing the bottom. Now, what else? So let's talk about what happens when, well, let me just say hi to a couple more folks. But we kind of already know, right? When we already know, you can just take that story and describe what are some elements of over-singing. And I wouldn't say that I was ever that extreme as an older, as a performer in an ensemble. I wasn't that way. But I was just loud enough to sing louder than, so I could hear myself and not blend. If I'm singing loud enough to hear my voice, I'm probably singing too loud because I'm not blending in with the ensemble. That's nothing. I'm not talking about solos. I'm talking about ensemble singing, and that's where I get over enthused. Okay, so a couple comments. Nico says yes. Okay, so I guess he's oversung. Riddick says, how can we produce real jump bounce? And there was, let me just get a couple. Just the Evil Genius says hi. Nice to have you here today, Mr. the Evil or Miss the Evil Genius. Olivia, hi. Nice to have you here. Slim Shady, hello Chuck, how are you? I am doing okay, Slim. It's a beautiful day here in Utah. We're having rain move in, and there's a big storm coming in from a winter, very wet storm coming in this afternoon in the south part of our state. Margot, I don't know if you guys are getting rain tomorrow, but a lot of that rain is like all over the south area there, even in Arizona. And so we're going to have winter coming to us now. But today's in the 60s. Okay, so Olivia says, oh, come on now. We all at some point have oversung. Probably so. You know, if you're a singer and you've been singing for a long time, I would say you're right, Olivia. Slim Shady says, the question may sound stupid. Do singers like Taylor Swift do voice exercises? How do they get where they are right now? Just curious. Yes, she does exercises, and she gets where she is right now. I think in her case, she's a very prolific songwriter. She has a good voice, and I understand. I've never been to a concert, but I understand she's very entertaining in concerts. But how she gets there is she just works all the time, and she's spent years and years perfecting her craft. She plays the guitar. I don't know what other instruments she plays, and I don't know her. I've never worked with her. But she has worked long, hard hours most of her life, probably. Oh, Margot says it's raining here in Arizona. Yeah, so we live in a desert out here. Margarita and I both, and she's in a state right below me. And in the southern part of my state, they've gone over 120 days with no accumulated rain. And so this is going to be a real relief for them. This is called St. George, Utah. Anyway, so, hey, Jake, or hi, Blake, from Edinburgh, Scotland. Awesome to have you here today. My ancestors came from Scotland and from Wales and from the English area, but my DNA tests say that it mentions particularly Scotland. Gilmore. So I think that that's in the Morrison clan. Okay, so Marcus says, greetings from Milwaukee. Hey, Marcus, I hear it's cold out there. Okay, so here's what happens if we start over singing. You can judge this yourself. Number one, we're too loud. We're just singing too loud, like that little girl I described. So if we're singing too loud, what happens? The vocal cords are holding the air back, because to get more volume, you send more air. So if the vocal cords have to hold back some of the air, which produces a louder tone, because it's more explosive, there's more muscle, so the vocal cords are getting tighter, which also is easy to recruit extrinsic muscles around the neck to start, kind of grabbing a little bit. And so right away, we're in trouble, because now we've got added tension around our necks. The vocal cords are under a lot of tightness. They're really a lot of grabbing, because they're holding back that air. And now what happens too then is the larynx starts to come up. So the larynx starts to be elevated, which essentially puts you in swallowing mode. Now you've got everything getting tight and squeezed. All because we're singing to, we're over singing. And so, how do you not oversing? How do you not oversing? Number one for me is I have to be aware, because I can get very into, I haven't done ensemble for a while, but I can really get into, I mean, on stage. In choirs, I think it's easier to be more aware of that. But on stage, when you're doing a show, we did Into the Woods, Stephen Sondheim, and the ensemble did a number of different things. It's very fun. And so you really get into it, and pretty soon you realize, oh, I'm over singing. So awareness is number one, I think, to be aware of what you're doing and that you're not singing. I think probably the easiest way to put this is singing too loud. Singing too loud, because now the vocal cords have to get too tight. And so one of the best ways to stop over singing is to reduce the loudness. Now let me change for a second here, and sorry, I hit the table with my camera on it. When you're practicing, I got to say that one of the most common issues from student to student, especially if they're struggling with pulling chest, and that's why I titled this "Stop Over Singing to Stop Pulling Chest." Stop pulling chest voice. One of the most common things, almost without exception, it's always a part of the problem is, and maybe much of the problem, they're singing too loud. They're singing with too much force, pushing too much air, and doing it too hard. You all have, if you've ever shaken anyone's hand where they tried to break your knuckles, squeezing it like a vice, that's what's going on a lot of times with our voices. We're just doing it so hard, squeezing the vocal cords so tight because we're pushing so much air. That's something I really didn't mention. Well, maybe I did, but you've got to push air to make it loud. And so now we're in trouble. So just this one thing, you guys, just practice a little bit softer. Anybody out there tried this? Trying to practice a little bit softer? Okay, so let me back up and pick up a couple comments here. Olivia, New Jersey. Awesome. I lived in New Jersey for a while, Olivia. Down Highway, I think it's 78, out in a little place called, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget now. I worked in Somerville. And it was, it is the Garden State. It's so beautiful there. Unfortunately, all we think of is the big cities, but so beautiful. Anyway, the evil genius that I just took a DNA test turns out 100% that I'm not sure what that means. So Riddick says, sir, how could we use our diaphragm sing? I'm going to have to give you a reference, Riddick. Go to powertosing.com, and in the far right, there's a little hourglass, a search glass. Click on that and type in breath control. And then click on episode 15 and 16. Margarita says that you just can't really sing quiet when you oversing. Yeah. That was quite frustrating for me. And that's really a good point. A lot, and this is maybe not exactly what Margarita's referring to, but a lot of times people will say, well, I want to sing loud to soft and soft to loud. And how do you do that? And I remember there was a time when I couldn't do that. Mainly, though, it's kind of connected to being able, if you can mix, it's so much easier. You've got a blend of chest and head voice, and it's so much easier to have those dynamics. But if you're over singing, most of the time you're in chest or at the top of chest. Pull, not or, but at the top of chest especially. But you can over sing in the bottom too. It doesn't really matter where in your voice you're over singing. It's going to tighten everything up, and then it's hard to. Then you there's a couple things you lose. The vibrato, you lose vibrato, or it slows down, or it gets kind of into a wobble. That's an indication. You lose your ability to do the dynamic. That is to go from loud to soft. I'm not warmed up today, but if I said ma 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 ma, so just to be able to go from loud to soft and soft to loud is great. It's an awesome thing to be able to do that. But if you're over singing, a lot of times you kind of lose that capacity for the dynamic, and also the vibrato. So that's not to mean I'm not saying, you guys, I'm not saying that you can't learn to sing loud or you can never sing loud. You can sing very loud, but over singing is not the same as a forte dynamic or a fortissimo even. It's beyond that, and it's introducing some things in your voice that you don't want, like tension. And that tension is what starts to hurt us. Marcus, hey Marcus, nice to see you. Yeah, exactly. After like 25 to 30 minutes of singing, I'm already hoarse. Yeah, so I was going to say that this is a very consistent thing that I see with many students who come. And one of the things that I see immediately is a real benefit by just practicing less loud, less intense, less hard. Bring down the volume, bring down the loudness. It just helps. It helps to give your voice some balance. So think about what's happening if you're just throwing a lot of air through the vocal cords from the lungs, whether you use your diaphragm or whether you're just pushing it out some other way. If you're really blasting a lot of air through the vocal cords, I lost my train of thought, you guys. I was going to go into more detail on that. Maybe it'll come back. I know another conclusion we've already reached, and that is if you're blasting too much air through the vocal cords, then they're going to tighten up. I think the point was this. Now it's back. I've got it. Is if you're blasting too much air through the vocal cords, your voice is out of balance. The vocal cords and the air, they want to find a balance. They want to play nice with each other. And as soon as we push too much air through, now the cords tighten up. If they don't tighten up, so you're blasting air through, and now you're too airy or breathy. And so by just coming back off of loudness and volume, your voice the vocal cords and the air, they start to play nicely together. And you start to sense this balance. And it's a good feeling. I don't know that I can necessarily demonstrate that, but so it's just the chord structure, kind of the waveform of the chords kind of kick in when they find this equilibrium of air coming through the chords. Now, we want that in our voices, because otherwise we're trying to hold back too much air, or we're blowing so much air through the chords that it's just breathy. So if I said, I can do it differently, and I don't like to do that. It just puts too much strain on my voice, especially I'm not warmed up. But and then if you try and do vibrato, I don't want to try that. Well, I can kick in vibrato a little bit, but what happens is you do that over and over and over again. Guess what happens to your vibrato? You get a wobble. And you start sounding old. Here in Utah, there's the famous Tabernacle Choir on Temple Square. They retire everybody at 60. When you hit 60, you're out. Well, I don't know why. I don't know exactly why, but I'm going to guess that with over 300 choir members, they don't want a bunch of 65-year-olds going, because if I'm not saying they are, and they do, but I am saying that it happens too often to singers who've oversung, and I'm not saying they oversing. I'm just saying they take care of it. So they don't want a bunch of people wobbling there, right? As you get older, if you've not cared for your voice, or if you've overdone it, then you lose your artistry. You lose control of the voice, and you can keep oversinging in all your life, and there are plenty of examples of this in the world of singers. Okay, so let me try and pick up a couple other comments here. Luke says, hi, Luca. Relax into it with easier, more heady voice songs. Rich said, how could we produce real jump and bounce in our voice like Paul Anka? I don't know what jump and bounce means in the voice. I'm a little confused on that. Lucas says, when live, of course. Okay. Margarita says, let myself be quiet. That helps. Yeah, so I really encourage all of us to, I'll tell you a story. Years ago, about 20, 21, 22 years ago, I was first training to teach this technique. And we had other teachers come in from the university and a couple of universities. And, well, that's where they were from, actually, when I think about it. We had maybe some community teachers there, too. But periodically, we had some of our professors from the colleges around us come in and just talk about what they do. One of the teachers who was over the opera program at the university here, he said he doesn't even let his singers sing full voice for the first number of lessons. I can't remember now how many but he has them sing soft. He has them vocalize softly. And at the time, it seemed strange to me. I completely get it now. But that was the way he would begin to work with their voices so as not to engage all of the extrinsic muscles and have to deal with that. And I think right now, as I look back on it, I think that's a very productive way to get started. And I'm sure it was for him and for his students. Okay, so Kyle says, I do better when I just relax and don't push. High notes usually come. Boy, isn't that true? HX pre-Roblox. He says, hi, Chuck. So I'm 16-year-old flip falsetto. that's going through his vocal change. And I crack all over the place singing in mix. I've been doing vocal exercises for 4 months. When will it all stop? It's so different. HR, it's so different from student to student. I've got a 15-year-old that was here yesterday, and he's getting through with very little cracking. I've had 19-year-olds that still were struggling. And then I'd see them again out here. They would go away and serve their church for a couple of years and then come back, serve our church, and come back at age 21. They were so much better. And so I'm guessing that I have a couple I can think of like that, whose voices hadn't completely changed by the time they were 19. So Mr. Riggs has a saying. He says, you have to take what nature gives you. And there may be some of us who can start to do it easier, faster, and others of us who really struggle. But I will say this, HXPRE, you probably should take a lesson, because I've seen progress, because what you're trying to do is hard to do, frankly, on your own. Because most of the time, at your age, it's just really hard not to grab. So it's so hard for a guy to say, gee, 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 gee. That it's so hard. And the other thing is they immediately think, oh, I just broke into falsetto. That's not falsetto. Gee, 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 gee. Once you start learning how to do that, then other things start to happen. Or like this. Nay, 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 nay. So HR, I would say, I would work on some exercise. I would do the pulled chest high larynx exercises for a while and see what impact they have. Okay? I'm sure you chose pulled chest high larynx because you broke, or the flip falsetto because you broke or cracked. But probably the reason why you cracked was your larynx was going up. Okay. Matthews, practice, okay. So Bushra says, I have an audition tomorrow. It's a music school for a gig at a local venue. I oversing sometimes. So I'm finding this very helpful. Thank you very much. So Bushra, it's hard because maybe your voice isn't worked out. Maybe you're not bridging like you want to, and maybe your mix is still light or weak, and so you almost feel like you have to push it harder. Otherwise, they'll think, well, your voice is too weak or something like that. So it takes, someone said already, Matthews said, practice. It takes practice. And it takes some patience, because just because you're doing something right doesn't necessarily mean that it's ready to use tonight or tomorrow. So you've got to keep working this over a period of time. It doesn't take a long time, but it's not instantaneous. Okay. I think back on a movie, maybe you guys have seen this movie. It's called Chariots of Fire, and it's about Eric Liddell and Harold Abrams, who were both runners from the UK. One's from Scotland, one's from London, I think. And Harold Abrams was beaten for the first time in his life by the runner from Scotland, the Flying Scotsman. I think that's what they called him, Eric Liddell. And he was devastated emotionally. He was just like, never had lost before. It's in the movie. It's a great movie. Well, he had already approached a professional trainer, Sam Musabini or something like that. And so he agreed to watch him. And when he thought he could help him, or when the time was ready, he would approach him. And so, sure enough, Sam Musabini was at the race, and he yelled down from the track down below, Mr. Abrams, he said something like, I can find you another, I don't know, 2 yards or something like that, which is enough to have won by. And so the rest of the show, I mean, you know, here's a world-class runner already who never lost in his life, never lost a race. He loses at the university level for his first time. And you would think that there would just be a little fine-tuning, just a little tweak here and there. But as the movie portrays this, this coach, this professional coach, Sam, completely took apart his technique and put it back together again. And you see this represented throughout the, you know, the workout time with him. He changes everything about his running just to get 2 more yards. And so what's hard for us is we think that all we have to do is just run faster. But in order to run faster, we may have to do something differently until we're able to, in order to, you know, really sing loud with lots of power and so forth. We have to retrain some things. We have to stop over singing. We have to stop pulling chest, and then work the exercises at a lower volume, and gradually they'll come along. You'll know when you'll know that. We sometimes think we're going to the gym, and the way to build stronger muscles is just to lift heavier weights. But that's not necessarily what the vocal cords need. The vocal cords need to be balanced. They need, well, there's some more comparisons I can make to working out. One of the things you need when you work out are to use small weights. Why? Because there are small muscles that surround the joints, and that provides joint stability. And you know, or you need a core workout. Well, there's nothing glorious about planks. You know, it's a lot more fun to stand in front of a mirror and do biceps, but you're not doing anything for your, you know, for your voice. So I mean, in like manner, sometimes we have to bring the volume back to pick up this artistry, this balancing in the voice, so that we can really gain power in our voice and not have the abuse. Now, boy, I'm really on my soapbox today, aren't I? Marcus, I don't know if you're asking me what my highest note is. You know, I have sung a C5 in a show I was in. It was just a passing note. I didn't sustain it, but I played the role of Perón in Evita, and he and Evita sing this really fun bit, and it's very it's very dissonant, and he actually sings the C5. So that's probably the highest note that I've actually sung in a show. I auditioned once and I sang a B flat in an audition, but I'm a bass, so that's a little bit high for me. But that's, you know, those are usable notes that I've used in songs, in auditions, or in a show. But I can vocalize on it. Anyway, that's the F5. I can, and you know, and I've done bubbles. I've probably done that a little bit higher than the F5. Or I can do that's the D6. But you know, I mean, those are not really notes. They're squeaks. Carlos Hernandez, Hello from California. The highest note I can sing is a B4. Up until I try to reach C5. I've only begun singing out loud the beginning of this year. Will my range come with time? Do I get instruction? Do I get instruction? So Carlos, how old are you? Because B4 is quite high, and I guess the question is, how low can you sing? Have you gone through your vocal change and so forth? But no, range doesn't come with time. You have to learn to bridge, and then you're in a whole new experience. I was 43 and I couldn't sing higher than the E above middle C, the E4. I'm a little older than that now. Terry, the 2D maniac. Hi Chuck, this is Terry from Egypt. Hey, nice to have you here today. I got your message after submitting a recording of myself, and now I know my voice type, pull chest and raised larynx. Awesome. I'm doing my very best with the exercise you recommended by. Boy, do they strain, though. So they should not be straining your voice if you're doing them the way I've demonstrated. So let me give you 2 hints here. On the nay, 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 go quieter. If I were redoing all of those exercises, I would demonstrate them more quiet. Instead of saying nay, 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 I recommend you say nay, 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 nay. You see what happens there? There's less tension because I brought that volume back, but you could hear it was connected. Maybe even better, a connection. That's the first step. And so you don't have to be loud to start to develop your voice, to coordinate it, to balance the voice, and to start building more the ability of the vocal cords and the air to play nicely so that you can start getting some real power in your voice. But you got to stop pulling. That's causing the straining. Or gee, 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 gee. Now if you said gee, 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 that's the larynx coming up. Gee. So you got to maintain that a little bit of a hooty sound while you're doing those. And if you could do what I just showed you, it should take a lot of strain out of everything you're doing. Nay, 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 nay. Gee, 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 gee. Okay, Marcus. Nice. I can get up to about an A4, maybe a bit higher. I'm considered a bari tenor, but I can hit a lot of alto notes and even soprano. Not well, but I can do it. Yeah, it's kind of fun to play around with those things, but what is meaningful to me is what can I use in my singing? What can I use in songs? And what can I use in ensembles and so forth? What can I use to get cast in shows and so forth? So they've got to be usable and serviceable. That's why I don't really put too much. I don't really have a lot of interest in the whistle tones. I'm sure they're useful here and there, but generally speaking, I don't think there's much to it. I think it's more of a kind of I don't know what's the word. It's one of those outliers. Matthews, hi. Every time I sing, my throat hurts. So frustrating. I fear for vocal damage. Matthews, go see the ENT doctor, ear, nose, and throat doctor, right away. If it's hurting every time you sing, you may have a nodule or you might have a blood vessel that's ruptured, which is called a hemorrhage. And there may be some other things going on. Maybe you've got some severe reflux. So go see the ENT. Yes, you're going to spend money, but it helps so much to relieve when you don't know, that's worse than the actual thing that's happened. Go find out what's going on, and so you can get some either medication or, so you know what's happening. So Marcus says, "Is anyone else?" Let me see. Sorry here. Anyone else's live feed? Oh, are you guys frozen? Gosh. Okay. George says, some tenors in our choir sing too low, so I feel like I'm too high. Yeah, that's an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? Evil Genius. I tried to sing in my mix following your exercises, Chuck, but it's too thin. Makes me think I'm not doing it right, but I feel the vibration in my chest and nose, but it sounds thin. Yeah, it might be at first. I have not met very many people that get this right immediately. I didn't. But eventually, see, this is a mix. This is a kind of mix. Nay, 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 nay. It's not full chest. I'm not in falsetto. What can it be? It's got to be mix. Nay, 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 no, 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 ma, 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 ma. So when you get that connection, gradually you want to go to more normal, and then start working on those other exercises. Do them exactly as I've demonstrated, and you start to find that balance and coordination, and you start getting more strength and power in it. Marcus says, screaming tenor. All right, so some fun stuff going on here. What would it sound like if I don't take in enough air? A lot of times the vocal cords stop the wave action, and so it sounds like you're cracking or breaking, but it's actually just not enough air going through the vocal folds. So that's usually what happens, is that you lose the tone. The tone breaks or stops because the vocal folds don't have enough air to keep that wave form going. So Marcus says, you teach with stories, I love it. Good, thanks, Marcus. All right, so I'm getting kind of behind. Let me blast through a couple more of these, because I've got a student coming in 8 minutes. Hello, could you please show exercise for breathing support development? I don't have any. I don't teach any exercises for support development, but I did do a video on how to, or what the diaphragm's all about and how it works. So you want to go to powertosing.com, and on the far right side is a little hourglass, which is the search icon. Click on that and type in there breath control, and then click on it. And then when you get a list of different videos that I've written about and done, watch episode 15 and 16, and that's going to help you more than anything. And Sean Devlin, hi Sean, nice to have you. I'm doing pretty well today. TL Man also, can you please show how to breathe, inhale and exhale, step by step, slow motion. Thanks so much in advance. Okay, so So what I'm doing is I'm just relaxing my tummy. So I'm going to relax. Tummy comes, so the diaphragm comes down when I relax, and it pulls air into my lungs. And then as I'm using the air, let me see. I'll just do some bubbles. Or just an ah. So I'm pulling it in gently. I pretend like there's a little string to the back of my belly button. I'm just kind of pulling it in gently. And so I'm pulling my tummy back in. Then when I'm ready to breathe again, to reload, I just relax. And my tummy comes out again, and air rushes into my lungs. It creates a vacuum. When the diaphragm drops, it creates a vacuum in the lungs, and the vacuum is filled with air. So I don't have to take a breath. It just, air goes in. And then I repeat. So that's That's really all you need. And you've got just tons of air. Okay, and support. You pull your tummy in as you're using the air, and that gives you an automatic, just a little bit more air kind of leaning against the chord structure, and in a positive way, and it works really well. Okay, I got 5 minutes here. Thanks to you guys for lots of great comments today. Let me just stop and say there's a couple questions that somebody asked today about bridging and about pulling chest and so forth. Go to, in the description below this YouTube video when we're done, there'll be a thing there that says get your vocal type. And you can click on that. It's a PDF. It's got links to a vocal test. It's got links to the vocal types, so you can watch videos about the vocal types. It's got links to the exercises that you download for your vocal type. So go to the description below and click on Get Your Vocal Type, and you can. It's a free PDF. It's got all those links. Saves you lots of time, and that's going to get you doing the exercises that you need to bridge, to stop pulling the chest, and doing exercises that counteract your tendency to pull chest. Okay. Let me see here. Chuck, what do you think about Powerwolf vocalist Attila Dorn? I'm sorry, I don't know that singer. Hi, Chuck. Thanks for getting on your soapbox. Angela, hi. Okay. Kylie, 7A or bust? Ah! Yeah. Well, that would be, wait a minute, that's 6. Ah! Right, that bust would be mine. Dario, hi, nice to have you here. Chuck, is it bad for a 16-year-old male going through vocal change to attempt to find the mic voice, to find their mic voice? I don't want to damage my voice while it's changing. Thank you. You know, I don't know what a mic voice is. I'm not sure what that means, Dario. Sorry. Oh, mixed voice. Ah, good. No, absolutely not. You want to get started as soon as you can. And I don't think there's. I've had young men like age 13, 14 start working on these exercises. I would just say do the exercises for pulled chest, high larynx, because the exercises that you do there is going to counter. The larynx is coming up now. It just goes up automatically for us guys when our voices start to change. Okay, golly, you guys, so many good questions and comments. Frizoki, hi, I'm a bass and can sing beautiful low notes, but my high notes sound terrible. How can I change that? Frizoki, watch this again, but go to that PDF, the free PDF, get my vocal type and download that, and take your vocal test and get your vocal type, and then go watch videos about your vocal type, and there's exercises for you there, and you'll get your high notes. Chuck, when I do the dopalgi, it throws me straight into my bridge. Good, that's good. It's supposed to facilitate that bridging. It's supposed to make that much easier for you. Okay, so this message is held for review, and I'm not sure what it is. It says show, and it just says D's, and then a bunch of faces. Kabi, is it supposed to do that? Is it supposed to do that? Yeah, okay, answer that. Marcus, I too can sing alto and soprano. Cool. Frizoki, my question about, I do not press the tones, but they just don't sound good. Yeah, so follow that example, or go get your vocal type, take the test, and get your vocal type. Okay, guys, I've got to wrap this up. I don't see your car here yet, so okay, Marco, I have trouble with connecting my mix and head voice down to chest. Up is no problem, but down is really hard. Marco, when you're going from your head voice into chest, you do have to think about it at first. You have to gradually, by degrees, go into chest, and allow that to happen. It won't just go there by itself. If you don't allow that to transition back to chest, it'll end up disconnecting. So if I said ma 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 ma, if I'm in head voice, ma connected, ma 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 ma. So I can't pull the head voice down. I have to allow that to transition. I have to put it into that chest. Ma 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 ma. You do have to manage it at first. It becomes automatic eventually. Now, if it won't transition into easily, then you're likely into almost there. My student says, okay, she's almost here. You may be in falsetto. So if you say ma 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 ma, so you might be in falsetto. You'll have to check yourself. You might be in falsetto. So you'll just have to work with that. Make sure that you're not in falsetto and that you allow that chest to come in by degrees so that you're putting it back into that spot. Okay. Bushra, I was confused about vocal registers before I would sing head voice, then chest voice. But you're right. I struggle mixed voice. I was soprano in choir now, but I didn't know how the voice would get there. Yeah. Grace. Hi, Grace. I have chest voice, head voice, and falsetto. However, it's hard for me to sing in mixed voice. Any tips? I tend to strain a lot in my chest voice. Grace, what I recommend is go get that PDF, get my vocal type, take the test, and I'm guessing if you're straining a lot in chest, you're probably pulled chest, high larynx. But take it just in case, and then start doing the exercises for your vocal type, and that's all on that PDF. Get my vocal type. It's in the description below the video. Okay, and how do I make my mix stronger? Those exercises will help you. TL, man, thanks so much. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it, and good to see you, George, everyone, Margarita, Margot. Thanks, everybody, for a great session today, and I hope this has been helpful to you. And so stop over singing, and you're gonna fix a lot. You're gonna get your voice in balance a lot faster. And that's all I have to say about that. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. See you inside the next video. And now I turn off this feed, so this stream will cut off just about